Calling meeting to order. All right, we'll start with introduction with select board, please.
Scott Morley, Select Board.
Carrie Keeman, Select Board.
Dan Webster, Select Board.
Ed Fournier, town administrator.
Chris Ferrari, Newport Daily.
David Barlow, Town Treasurer. Daniel Rondo, resident.
Isha Sandra Constable.
All right, and we have Melanie Rodjansky joining us via Zoom and Deb Tangway. Any changes or additions to the agenda? And allow for public comment. All right, I'll just step back on the changes or additions. Matt Krajewski was supposed to join us, but he isn't here. Supposed to be in here as an admission request and update, so
Is he not showing at all tonight?
he hasn't said, he confirmed like that he was coming during the week, but I haven't heard from him today, so I sent him an email and haven't heard back.
Okay.
Want to just hold till
Mike,
we show
Mike,
them?
Well,
In
he
case he-
popped in,
Yeah.
okay.
And we'll go to
Thanks.
Melanie.
All right, so we'll start with Melanie with a financial update and fund balance classification policy. And in the middle one, if you take the top one off, Dan, you'll see. There, you guys.
Hey everybody, looks like I sort of lost the room. I can
Well-
sort of see the room.
Yeah.
So
Melanie,
Ed, were you able to get those pages into their packet for last week?
Yeah, I printed out the 2 copies that you gave me. The 2 of them.
Okay, good. I think the place to start would just be with a budget status report. And this probably isn't too different from what David has prepared for you in the past. I'm thinking this as a initial sort of presentation to get feedback from the board of what type of information the board wants to see, at what level of detail that the board wants to see. These cover pages are just summaries of the actuals, which I included the NEMRC reports that roll up into these reports, so that you did have access to sort of the minutia if you wanted to see it. And if not, then you just go ahead and get the snapshot. What I did a little bit differently than perhaps the treasurer report has given in the past is I gave the beginning fund balance, so that you could determine where you were sitting at the point in time. So if you look down at the bottom of the first page, you have the June 30, 2025 fund balance, and then the current results of operations, meaning the revenue collected between July 1 and September 30th, less the expenses incurred, and you have a net positive. And so now your fund balance is tentatively sitting at around 369,000. And this is just in the 100 fund itself, the operations fund, so to speak. The first quarter of the year is sort of I would say the easiest, just because it's Q1 and you're not up against the end of the year where you're wondering where you're at from a budget versus actual perspective, because only so far of the year has transpired. There's a lot of one-time things that happen. And so it's kind of an easy, loose position in the first quarter. But there are some things that you would expect to be around the 25% mark naturally, and some things that are not. And I made some notes off to the margin on those, such as the Coventry Day happened, and that was the greatest portion of your recreation budget. And so it's done and over with, and you won't have any more of those expenses for the year. But one thing I wanted to talk about, and it's something that I've emailed both Ed and Matt and David about, is the allocation of the landfill fees. I see Scott shuffling around there.
Sorry.
So in a traditional town setting where you actually levy taxes, The highway fund is often seen sort of like the school. And so I see Deb's online. When it comes to property taxes and tax revenue that's collected, the school always gets 100% of their money. And they leave the town sort of holding the bill for collecting the rest of the money through the delinquent tax collection process. And so the school is always whole when you collect taxes. And I think that there's been some inconsistency in the way you've treated the landfill fees in the past. So what I'm suggesting or wanting to hear your thoughts is that, do you expect your highway fund and the amount of landfill fees budgeted to go to the highway fund to be whole? Do you intend to fund them in full so that the general fund, the 100 fund, is the one that is holding the shortfall or the excess? And so what I've demonstrated here is as if the highway fund had received 25% of their annual allocation of the anticipated landfill fees. Before, because the actual reports that you're going to look at have 0 there. It says the highway department doesn't have any landfill fees yet, even though the town has collected their first quarter of fees. And so it's just it's an approach where you have to choose how to account for them so that you have some consistency in how you're looking at reports to figure out really where you're at a point in time. And I don't know that the board really wants to be in a position where the highway fund is sort of short simply because you didn't get landfill fees. Because if you end up with a deficit in the highway fund, what are you going to do with it? Like, you're not going to tax a deficit. If you end up with a deficit, you're going to have to figure out some way to true up the highway fund. So I just wanted to get your thoughts on how you wanted to potentially see the landfill fees allocated and your feelings about the highway fund balance broadly.
Well, I've seen different people with different approaches over a number of years and different thoughts. I know David has talked to us about it a number of times, and you may have even adjusted yourself a couple of times, right, on how you've done that
Only slightly.
over
but,
the
you know,
years.
Usually first quarters, Casella receipts are in the general fund, and the second quarters are mostly landed in the highway fund.
Yeah, it sort of trues it up then, is what we've been doing.
A little bit. I mean, usually it comes right down to the bitter end of the fiscal years to figure out what does it take to, how much money do I need to plow into the highway fund to keep it positive? Ideally at 0, that it's just level funded.
Right. I guess, Melanie, my question would be if it's the first thought that comes from me would be to be using a ratio. We have a budget on the municipal side, and we have the budget on the highway side. And would it make sense to ratio that, and as the revenue came, to apply it that way?
That's totally an option for you to do. I think that in the end, there's a question of whether you actually want a highway fund balance at the end of the year. A couple of years ago, I think David did an entry to literally just 0 out the highway fund balance, so that in the end, the highway fund has no balance, and then you kind of start over for the next year. But then at the end of June 30, 25, you left some fund balance in there. And so that was an inconsistent treatment. And so just trying to find some consistency in the approach. I think that I mean, honestly, I would say that you probably just don't need a highway fund. It should be part of the general fund, but I understand that makes people squirm from that perspective. as far as holding them accountable to a fund balance perspective and having them actually earn revenue themselves, you still absolutely have the budgetary control, and people need to stick to their budgets and come to the board when they're having issues. But ultimately, whether you expect the highway to have a surplus or a deficit in the end of the year, I'm not sure that that's the intention of the board.
So give me a history lesson. It's something 10 years ago in the back of my mind where you could share one fund but not the other. Isn't that the way that used to work?
Well, a highway fund in theory is created when you actually levy a separate highway tax. It's nothing that says you can't create one,
Right.
but as a convention of law, that's sort of how they were created over time, was to say, okay, we're going to actually on a tax bill have a separate tax rate for the highway. And that's why you end up with a highway fund. Generally, it's probably the history. I don't know if David knows the origination of your actual highway fund. But from a resources standpoint, you're sharing the same pool of resources. There's I wouldn't say minimal, but there's just $100,000 or so of external revenue from an ongoing grant basis in the highway fund. David, did you have a history on what created the highway fund, or did this sort of happen when you started getting audited again?
Oh, it was a pre-existing condition.
Yeah. Yeah, that goes
I'm
back.
sure it predates Casella days.
Yeah,
And the law used to be that once voted as a highway fund, it's always a highway fund.
Right.
If you've raised this revenue for the highway, it's stuck as a highway.
you couldn't bring it over to,
That was used to the old
right.
statute, but that changed several years ago now. And you're no longer even required to have a separate highway fund, so we could certainly do it differently. I'm not sure that would be better. But
No, and I'm not saying that you need to take it out of a 150 fund
if we want to,
as far as accounting for it, just from whether you're measuring their results of operations based on how much landfill fees you take in, it is sort of the question of whether that's a valid sort of analysis, because they have no control over what they receive in the landfill fees.
well, I think if we want to agree on the way that the way I apply landfill fees to the highway fund, we want to proportionally do it every quarter. That's fine. And then end the year zero balance, which I would recommend in the highway fund. So only give the highway fund just enough money to fund their actual expense. I don't know if that raises red flags with Melanie or not, but just have them in.
No, in the end, I think that
And we actually did that a couple of years back, like for a couple of years. I didn't get to it last year, although it's not too late to adjust. I mean, we could adjust it back to zero.
yeah, and so I think that's why I was just like broaching this as sort of a general policy discussion or a financial accounting discussion, just to say, like, what's the goal? Like, what do people really want to get out of this by either prorating or leaving the revenue at zero in the highway fund? And then what would you do about a highway fund balance ultimately in the end? And does it make sense for it to always close out into the general fund, whether it's a deficit or a surplus on that side? So it's definitely, that was absolutely the point, was just sort of have a conversation about how the board views management of the highway fund itself. I mean, in years, so say you get a flood year again, and the landfill fees are higher than normal, and all of a sudden the highway fund has $400,000 left. Are you going to leave it in the highway fund, or are you going to transfer it into your long-term investment fund? Like, qualitatively, what are you really looking to do with your highway fund balance? And are you going to say to the highway fund, nope, you've got $200,000 left from last year, so we're gonna let you use it in the next year? Like, what is your thoughts management wise on highway?
Well, after listening to you, and Dave, it seems like I'm hearing you say that you really only have one revenue coming into the town, and it's going into to fund all of our expenses. You're not creating revenue as a highway department and then creating revenue as the other part of the municipality. And so therefore, why are we seeing two revenues? Is that's what I'm hearing you say boil down. And so just to keep, possibly bring in one revenue and just fold the highway expenses into the general. And see, and do it that way. Is that what I'm hearing?
It could be. I think it's just a matter of whether you expect to see a $0 highway fund balance at the end of each year, policy wise, so that at the end of the year, David can say, I know I need to make a journal entry. It doesn't matter how much we got in landfill fees. It doesn't matter how much we spent in the highway department, because somebody needs to bear the cost of whatever that net surplus or deficit is out of highway. And so you could end up in a situation where, with your FEMA issues that you've had, like you might be out of pocket like you are now, and have a deficit in the highway fund, but you're not going to tax a deficit the way that potentially the law likes for you to tax a deficit. You're going to say, nope, general fund's going to cover that, and we're not going to tax the deficit. So
Right.
It really is just kind of a chasing your tail thing, where I want to provide meaningful information to the board. And if you go to the second page of that first budget status report that's for the highway, you're going to notice that it's a little more tidy in the budget, because I've increased the Waste USA budget to add in the paving amount that you approved. It's pretty close to a balanced budget. It's off by $10 there. So it's 1293912 versus 1293922. That is ideally the way that a municipality presents their budget and levies their taxes. It's a balanced budget approach. You generally don't budget to levy more taxes than what you need to pay for the budgeted ongoing expenses. And so right here, with the way that this is set up, it's a nice, tidy, balanced budget. You have said, this is how much in revenue we're anticipating, because we need to come out even with our expenditures that we've budgeted. And so it really does look like a nice, typical, tidy highway fund when you look at the budget. But then when you get to the actual, it's seeming like okay, well, first quarter, nope, we're not going to allocate any revenue. Second quarter, let's just take a proration of percentages and try to go in there. And so you have no idea where you are in your highway fund balance throughout the year if you're not recognizing the revenue on that side. If that makes a little bit of sense.
I'm tracking you, Dave. What? Chirp in there now. I mean, what you got the most experience in the room? What do you?
Well, you can certainly allocate revenue sooner to the highway fund. It's not a problem. Of course, it comes in quarterly, basically, the big money from Casella.
Right.
We also get north of 100,000 from the state every year as well into the highway fund. It's road grants.
Yeah.
Class 2, class 3. We just got one. There are other sources of revenue into the highway, but to me, it still comes down to the basic question of, do we run that thing zero balance at the end of the year? So I only ultimately put enough money in there to pay for whatever they've done in the highway fund, but no more.
Yeah, and so I think of it from a perspective, you warn an article separately at town meeting that says, you know, we need X dollars to operate the highway fund, and we're going to take that from this landfill fee source. And when you adjust it, say to add the 700,000 in paving, you're not saying no longer does the general fund get to have that 700,000. You're saying, yep, we have limited resources here. So now that's going to slide over into the highway fund. And so you're intentionally trying to develop a balanced budget, but then sort of feeling through like, oh, I'm just going to transfer over whatever I want to transfer over for revenue. And it just doesn't feel like something you can put a policy on, or it doesn't, or a procedure on. And somebody like myself who comes in and says, okay, let's figure out like how they've done this. It's like, well, they did it this way this year and they did it this way that year. And so how do we just come together to have a goal on how it should look? And so that everybody knows where everything should be at the end of the year.
Well, that's a good point, which is we are voting it that way. We are voting two separate budgets. And so it would seem like, not that we couldn't change that, but if that's what we do, then it would seem like, just for easy math, if we voted the highway department to be $500,000, folks should want to know, where did you come out? You know, are you under, or are you over, or are there adjustments that need to be made, or have the discussions on why you're off that mark? Just like the other side of the house would be. That seems to be pretty. I guess the good news is we haven't had to worry about it because we have too much money. And so David's done a really good job at, you know, cleaning the thing up at the end of the year. But these questions are good questions, and it begs us to think about, you know, more of the detail of it all. So I don't know if we're prepared to answer that tonight. Maybe we need to chew on that a little bit.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what I was just wanting to give you something to think about.
I think for me, Dave, it would sort of be one or the other, right? Either we keep voting two budgets and then run them and find out where we end up at the end of the year. And if there's a $20,000 surplus, then there's a $20,000 surplus. And I guess we would have to think about that in our next budget, which is, you know, why is that there on the highway, for instance, and what do we do about it? Do we level fund last year? I don't know. How are we to budgets? You know, when we have that discussion.
Yeah.
Or potentially say, let's put up one vote for your municipal expense. And adjust ourselves that way. But I'd have to chew on that, maybe let Dave sleep on it and talk to him and.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually, it's a good read in the town report and watch the warning and say, okay, this is the amount warned for highway. This is what we're going to adjust it by, all of that. Like, it seems like it's a good process. I'm not suggesting necessarily that you completely abandon the highway fund process. It's just a matter of, you know, how do you present good financial information that really tells the story of the highway fund of the year. And so I could come around to either, like I said, in traditional highway funds and like school funds, if you have a budget and you voted it and that's how much money that they need, then they get all their money. And so that's why I took that approach for this particular report. But if you want to do the proration and leave them short at the end of the year, then that's absolutely a methodology that you can take. And so you can absolutely just revisit it next month to just talk about, you know, what do we really want to do, and sleep on it a little.
Yeah, I need to sleep on it.
Yeah,
That was deep, no? You guys got comments or thoughts or?
Not Jeff.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if anybody has questions, you can always email me, like Ed and David have and Scott have my email, and we can arrange a call or something. Just to chat about what it really is, like maybe connecting the dots a little bit differently, works for other people. So as far as this report is concerned, there's nothing in there that is jumping out at us except for you've obviously spent some money on your Ice Jam, your MERP grants, and your FEMA buyouts, and you don't have that money back yet. And so you don't have that yet, and it has a zero budget because you didn't budget to have those grant funds, and that's okay. That's to be expected. You haven't done your transfer to the investment yet either, and so that's also fine. And then down in the highway fund, the looming number really is that the Coventry station, you spent $164,000 and you don't have that money back either. So you do have a fund deficit right now in the 150 fund in the highway fund. And as this year goes on, that's all gonna turn right around and everything should be great, assuming no, knock on wood, no other disasters. So yeah, any questions about just those couple pages? Anything else that you would want to see on them?
Not yet, but I bet I will in a couple weeks.
Okay.
I gotta digest it. I do wanna talk to Dave after he sleeps on that for a few days.
Yeah.
How else would we put money into the highway fund? The money is coming from the landfill. If it was a percentage, it's always changing. How else could we do it?
Other than allocating the 100% of the budgeted amount and letting them have their budget, so to speak, like David had said, you can prorate the amount, which you just basically say once the actual final tallies are in, I have to assume that the select board makes an estimate of what the landfill fees are going to be for the upcoming fiscal year. And so that's sort of the bucket of money that you have to divvy up between the highway fund and between the general fund. And so once you get those budgets in place, like I said, the budget for highway installed in Nemrick right now is like 400 some odd thousand. Has 477, 689 in there, but you really have another 700,000 that the general fund can't have anymore because you voted to take it away from the general fund when you allocated the paving money. And so once you figure out who has what fraction of the total anticipated fees in the budgets, then you can allocate the amount received based on their allocable percentage. And David's done that in the past because that's what he did at the end of last year.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, let us chew on that.
Yeah, good. So I started to pick at some of the audit comments from last fiscal year's audit. And some of the low-lying fruit is with fund balance classifications and GASB statement 54. And so the pages that you have here really show you all the funds that you have with the exception of the school fund. In the second handout, you have the general fund 100, which is one of the ones we were just talking about, how much money you got in for revenue, how much you had with disbursements. And then again, you have your $370,000 fund balance. That's sort of how this works. But for the most part, none of these other funds have any activity recorded to them for the year, because I think David's waiting to spread the interest until later. Is that correct, David?
Actually, the board motioned and voted to keep the interest in the general fund.
Okay, yeah, so that's as long as the article that warned the actual fund creation in the first place didn't say that it needed to earn interest, and it's totally fine not to allocate interest to those funds. And so these fund balances just are right where you left them at the end of the year, with the exception of cemetery, because you had some lot sales or whatever. And so when you're considering what your fund balance is, for those funds. There are some that are actually general fund, even though you don't think of them as general fund. And so I kind of grouped them together on that first page in the left-hand side, where it has the Fund 100, which is the one we were just talking about, Fund 210, which is your reappraisal funds, Fund 240, community development funds. 260 is just kind of hanging out there a little bit. It's a Gilman fund, and we're keeping track of that until we chat with the auditors this year, because there's a long history of Gilman. And then the 900, which is where your long-term investments live. And it looks like, David, you're not recording any gain loss on investments from the 900.
Yeah, I do that only at the end of the fiscal year.
Okay.
That's a whole another conversation with the auditors.
That's yeah, that's a different conversation, because you're choosing to record your value, your fair market value of your investments, and it's a departure, and it kind of is what it is. You don't really want to be accounting for things at historical cost, which is what the auditors would like for you to do, and that's okay. It's about getting you information that you find valuable, and so when we start adding, they're going to add a report like this to the quarterly financials, which will tell you where you're at fund balance wise. And this 900, we might want to consider adjusting for market gains and losses. Or you had said that you were going to have the new advisor folks be coming in and telling you where you're at with your investments as far as your performance, and on a more frequent basis.
Yes, the plan is definitely to bring them in. We haven't scheduled them yet, but we get quarterly statements. So it's easy enough to reflect that way.
Yeah, sometimes it's good to just be able to see them, and incorporate them into your regular finances, even if you don't actually book the entry. Like, I could go ahead and adjust them in the fund balance so that you can see the unrealized gains and losses and the actual gains and losses and where you're at the end of the quarter, just to see, quarter over quarter where you are. But again, that could be a investment folks question. So when you start looking at your financial reporting from your auditors, they're going to squish together your general fund, your reappraisal, your community development, your Gilman, and your 900 long-term investment, and say, this is general fund. And so that gets confusing, right? Like, you put them in different accounts for a reason, but it's about what their uses are, as far as their restrictions on use and how it fits into your operations of your government. And so those funds have different fund balance classifications about whether they're non-spendable, restricted, committed, assigned, which is this pesky GASB 54 and 34 thing that the auditors are talking to you about. You also, in addition, you have your Fund 220 for building maintenance, 330 for road infrastructure, the cemetery fund. There's a roads capital fund, and then the Fund 230 for some flood recovery funds. Like I said, I didn't include the school fund in here. It's actually just just make it too big. But the next page is the old notes to your financial statements, which talks about what the auditors feel about the classifications of these. And so they feel that your cemetery expenses or your cemetery funds are restricted, meaning that you have people who are paying for lots, and the use of those funds is restricted by the underlying enabling legislation or whatever you're using that money for. You can't just go spend it for whatever you want it for. It has to be used for cemetery, either cemetery perpetual care and stuff. And so that goes into the restricted category. The reappraisal expenses are really interesting, because I saw that and went, okay, the reappraisal is in the general fund, and I don't really know why. Never see a reappraisal fund in the general fund. And it's because in the past, the town of Coventry has chosen to transfer money into the reappraisal fund because you're needing to deal with the legal implications of the landfill and the the reappraisal process and the appeals process of the valuation. And so a few years ago, maybe even 10 years, 10 years ago now, you were moving some pretty big chunks of money into reappraisal, so that you had the money when you needed to go for legal fees. But so that is committed. So the money that you chose to put into that fund is a committed fund, but the amount that the state sends you every year is restricted. And so that's a good example of this hierarchy of how you're able to spend funds and control funds and how it relates to this policy. So if the state of Vermont sends you $5,000 and says, this is for reappraisal, then you need to spend it on the qualifying expenses that the state says that you can spend on reappraisal. If you say then, well, we still have 200 and some odd $1,000, like how much of it came from the state and how much of it came from us, you have to know that. And so you have to say, okay, well, we're going to spend the state's monies first. And the money that's left over is the stuff that we put in ourselves. And so that's a good example of where this GASB 54 hierarchy, you can sort of see how it works in decision making, where you say, if something's restricted and it has more restrictions on the use, then that's the money that we're going to say that we're spending first, because we have more control over what we do with our own money that we've committed ourselves. Does that make some sense? A little bit.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So that's the way these funds read down. If you look just from the audit, there's some that are committed, and committed by, it depends on the government that's making the choice of what committed means. And so for Coventry, the actual audit, and then even my initial interpretation, was that you feel that the voters are the highest decision-making authority of the town. And that's the flavor that I've gotten from Scott is nope, if we want an answer to something, we're going to ask our voters, and they're going to help us make a decision on these big ticket items or creating funds and things like that. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, very fair. We've walked along a sort of a squiggly line for a lot of years with our reserved funds. We've had very high balances, and there's been a number of times where the select board has expended, hundreds of thousands of dollars out of those funds without specifically going to the marked meeting and asking permission to pave a road or buy a building. And this board has been pretty consistently saying we don't want to do that. We want to bring any of those big ticket items to town meeting to have conversation. And sort of at the same time, we found you. And we've been working with David, and we're trying now, I think, to have that next conversation around. So what do we do now? Is it time to reduce the funds? Is it time to eliminate some? Take that conversation back to the voters and have a new plan. I don't think we've made that decision specifically. We've talked about it a lot. And I think some of those funds deservedly should stay, and maybe some of them shouldn't. But I think that's probably our next conversation, that sooner than later, that we ought to be having with all, take a look at the whole pile, right? And do we want to keep that, or do we not want to keep it? And we can't choose that. That's another choice for the town to make, because they've created it. So it's a lot to think about, but I think the policy discussion that Melanie's pushing us towards the right one, which is how do we wanna do it? How do we see ourselves managing that money for the town and, I think that's where we're at. I think you're giving us a good push and maybe we can have this on the agenda for the next month or two. And see where we can get. We've got a finance committee that's being showing some life. And maybe that's part of that discussion with them to see where thoughts are over there, but. Probably, I'd like to say by the first of the year, we should have our thoughts in order on how we want to proceed and then get into the devil in the details of what do we do about it. Does that make sense, Melanie?
Yeah, and I think, a real time example that you have of that is the truck that at the end of the year, you had sent it out to have its body put on it. When you go ahead and you pay that invoice, are you going to use the last of what's left of one of your capital funds to pay for it? And there's the question of, do you use committed resources that are eligible to pay for this before you use your unassigned balances to pay for it? And so I think that's where, especially in small towns, this concept of having a reserve fund that's committed and saying you're going to use that first conflicts with the current resources, and you're trying to balance your budget and you want to say, no, I'm going to spend this money out of the general fund. I'm not taking money out of my reserves for this particular item, even though it qualifies. And so I think that, well, I gave you a standard policy that has it nice in order and says, I'm going to use restricted first, then committed, and then assigned, and then unassigned. That might not be your reality. And I like to write those types of policies to say the board's going to decide on a case-by-case basis, other than when it comes to the restricted funds where you have restrictions on their use and you're trying to sort of dispatch with them.
Right.
And so yeah, it's a thought process of how you use them versus how you used your budget in the year. And I do think you're right that if you decide to keep some of the funds or shuffle the deck, you can just have clarifying motions to maybe say, well, we understand that we're able to create this reserve fund, and that by creating this reserve fund, that also gives us the power to expend out of it. But when we create these funds, we're going to have some gates around when we can spend that money, or if we go back to the voters to just affirm that, okay, yes, this is really, we've been setting this money aside, but we're still not going to spend it until you tell us that you really are in favor of what we're spending it on. And so I think there's a way to reframe, maybe combine some of the highway stuff together, reframe it so that it meets your needs.
I think that's right, Melanie. I think for a lot of years, and there's no fault in it, it's just what we've done as a town. For a lot of years, we had extra cash laying around at the end of the year. So the conversation typically has been, well, we've met our expensing obligations and we want to transfer money to long-term funds. And we've got other projects. And so the thought has been that we took a look at those funds and looked at those balances, and we sort of knew that we were going to do some paving projects, or we sort of knew that a truck would blow up eventually. And so we put money into those funds, knowing that when it happened or when it was an appropriate time for us to do that the select board could just do it because we had the funds to do it. And the pushback from me, I'll raise my hand to it, for a few years now has been, I don't like that. I think that anything that's a large ticket item like that truck that you just mentioned should have been thought prior and placed in a budget for town meeting so that it's an item to think through, and then you think about where you want to get your money from. Not you just have enough money for when you wanna make a decision on whatever you wanna make a decision on. So that's where that's the curve that we wanna take, I think.
Yeah, and I think that
I mean, it's always been stuff that I think is what we needed, but it could be different. It could be spent on different things.
Right.
right, and I think
Right.
what Coventry doesn't have is a tax rate, right?
Right.
So a lot of times the amount of money that you place into municipal reserves are in concert with a capital plan, a level of reserve funding, and trying to stabilize your tax rate. And so other towns and cities manage these reserve funds a little bit differently because they have to plan in advance for when that fire truck's going to cost $450,000, or when these tandem trucks are now $275,000 and you need 8 of them. When you start going to voters with a proposed tax rate increase and that they're going to be paying more, it's a very different climate than what you have. But that doesn't mean that that doesn't mean you can't manage it as if you really are. You're managing that zero. And so capital planning and looking out, 5 to 10 years isn't a bad idea to say, hey, we have 8 trucks. When are we going to replace them? When do we think we're going to replace them? You got the paving plan. You've done great work on paving. That's all going to come right back around, and it's going to probably be twice as expensive when it comes around in 15 years. So I think there's opportunity there to put some gates around what you're saving for, and so that there's a goal and there's a plan and there's a reason why you're saving it. Not for just when the truck breaks down, we're just going to buy a new one. Just having some ideas in advance of
We really should budget like other towns do. That's what we should do.
Well, that's what she's telling me.
Yeah, I know. That's exactly what you're saying.
Yeah. We're gonna get there.
I think we've said that, or, in a roundabout way.
We've said it for years. We haven't done it. And so we have to take stock, right? We have to take stock of our capital items, and we have to do the depreciation schedules, and we have to make a plan and look at all of our stuff. And what Melanie is suggesting, which is absolutely right, which is, in a normal town, you want to keep those tax bills level, right? They're just very slowly increasing, and not doing this all the time when you need a truck.
Yeah.
So that you're gonna need a truck, you're gonna need to replace the loader, so you're taking 50,000 or 100,000 a year and you're putting it into a capital plan with thought, and not just pushing $1 million into it because we had it.
Yeah.
And then putting it on a board of 3 to make the decision whenever it comes up. That's what we're trying to adjust ourselves on. If that makes any sense to everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. Something as big ticket like a $700,000 paving, and compared to what you had for a highway budget, if you had a highway tax, like, people would be like, oh my God, what are you doing to our highway tax? And so I think that thinking about it just from for that perspective is possibly helpful. And so yeah, I think that I know that you've had some votes as far as those reserve funds, whether you were to sort of return them or and that didn't pass, right? There was some effort to.
It did not pass. I don't think that the town was ready for the conversation. I don't think that we had the discussion here enough and group consensus, and everybody felt comfortable with the conversation. It just didn't happen. It wasn't ready to go to town meeting. So maybe we are this March if we go down this path for the next few couple months. And get everybody on board and see what Dave's at with all of it. Um,
Yeah, and I think if you have a chance, just read through the sample policy and then just understand that it's sort of an audit recommendation that you do have a policy that deals with GASB 54 and 34, and that they talk about having a minimum unassigned fund balance, which I don't really know what that looks like for Coventry, because I think that your goal is generally to try to fund your long-term reserves at a level that's sort of unknown now. But if you have extra money, you may choose to transfer additional money into the reserves. And so just keeping it set aside without a purpose may not suit you. And so just be thinking about, how do you feel about, this is the GFOA's sample, you know, how much cash do you want on hand in case something happens? And we can revisit that at another meeting. Another little bit of a low-lying fruit, which wasn't on my list, but for Ed, there's a procurement policy, and they were talking about, they really want you to deal with the Part 2 CFR Code of Federal Regulations for the FEMA stuff. They want you to, outline that you'll, follow their procedures and all of that. So it's just another standard policy. Did you want me to do a strike to update that with that FEMA grant pesky stuff in there so you can consider it?
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, we're just gonna try to pick off the findings. There wasn't anything that was critical. It's just we're trying to keep the auditors happy. So any other questions for me? I see Matt is on now.
yeah, Matt's gone.
Nope.
No, Matt's
Matt
on.
Krajewski's
Oh,
on.
Matt Krajewski. I thought you meant our Matt.
No, I see Matt's on. I took his spot, I think.
So, thank you, Melanie. Give us a couple weeks to digest it all, and this policy, that you do have is probably, a quick turnaround, I would think. But
Yes.
those other conversations are a little bit tougher.
Okay. Well, we'll reconvene.
Thank you.
Thanks, Melanie.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Too.
All right, do you wanna move to Matt or us?
Yeah.
Okay. So we have accessor update and errors and admissions request from Matt. Hello, Matt.
Hey, Matt.
Hey, I'm sorry, joining you late here. I was assuming that it started at 6 here. I'm on the road this week down in West Rutland doing an IAAO class, so I apologize to you. Do you want me to just kind of get right into it here?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. So the big thing that I just wanted to bring to your attention tonight, and actually David Barlow is the one that had inquired about this originally with me, and he was exactly right. We have a parcel, and I believe you have the document in front of you. I had sent it to Ed. We've had this Washington Electric Co-op parcel. It's technically the methane generation plant. You can see the parcel ID 000ELE01. Right now, according to our 2025 grand list, that parcel is inactive, and it was made inactive for this year based on the recommendation from the state, from Property Valuation Review. When David and I spoke about it, it really didn't make a lot of sense why this parcel was inactivated. And I mean, as we talk about a lot in this community, nothing is necessarily a direct benefit to the community in lieu of not having municipal tax. But this is a parcel that carries a $10.2 million assessment. So as soon as I brought this to the attention of the state, basically they reversed course immediately and said this parcel should not have been inactivated to begin with. So what I'm asking from you here tonight is, as the formality goes, our Grand List 2025 is filed. If I could get you to at least approve the reactivation of this parcel, I can go ahead and work with David. I'm planning to be in the office this upcoming Thursday. We can go ahead, issue the revised tax bill together with the change of appraisal notice. And Washington Electric, I've been in communication with them on this already. They're already anticipating that this bill is going to get sent. So I don't anticipate this, certainly this being a surprise to them. So just kind of a formality. Let's get this parcel back on our grand list. And where we're at in this point in the process for this year, this is certainly the way we have to do it.
So just one clarifying question for me, the state inactivated it?
That's correct. So they sent us, and I have the latest copy of the utility spreadsheet in front of me here, but the way that they started doing utilities this year, it's a little bit different in terms of a lot of times uh, the kind of the transmission lines in particular, things like fiber optics. It's really the determining factor is how many ratepayers do you have in a community? And the state had kind of changed their whole formula, the way they go through utilities this year. I think a lot of what they did, for lack of a better term, it was kind of like reinventing the wheel here. And I think that they overlooked a lot of parcels that may have not necessarily fit the mold that they were looking to restructure in terms of the procedures here. So again, for whatever here's my take on this, and this is just my opinion. I don't believe that they were aware that this was even a methane plant or necessarily what this was to begin with. And when we brought it to their attention that, okay, this isn't the combination of transmission lines and fiber optics, as an example, this is a methane plant here, it kind of raised a red flag immediately to them, and they sent me a revised spreadsheet, and that's kind of the circumstance behind this.
Thank you, Dave. No brainer to me.
Yep.
Is that all you got?
That's all I have on that one. I mean, again, this is there's really no, benefit lost to the community. I think in the end, the state of Vermont is going to appreciate us reactivating this parcel because, I mean, you think about it, $10.2 million assessment, that's pretty substantial when it comes to ed tax going into the state there. So I think that, I ultimately, I think it's the right move that we just go ahead and we reactivate this, but certainly that's up to you as a board.
Chris?
Mr. Chair, and hi, Matt, Chris Price from Newport Daily. So how much is their tax bill gonna be? It sounds like you're gonna reissue them a tax bill, and we are talking about the methane plant at the landfill.
Correct. The amount, I don't know. Either of you guys know the amount of the tax bill?
It'll be approximately 165,000.
Total or addition?
That's a singular amount. The bill will be for 165, roughly, yeah, approximately.
When all is said and done,
Yes, that's it.
what is it now?
Zero.
Zero.
Gotcha.
It was deactivated.
This is it, gotcha.
Okay, you guys good with that?
Yep.
Good.
I make a motion to approve the Coventry Assessor's Office errors and emissions request regarding the Washington Electric Co-op parcel ID 000ELE01
To be reactivated.
to be reactivated.
Nice.
Adjusted assessment, $10,200,000.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thanks,
That's
Matt.
not gonna have any effect on the other tax, we're not gonna see. It's actually not gonna see a difference one way or the other.
Thank you, Matt.
Hey, no problem at all. Just before I let you go here, Ed had mentioned to me, did you have any follow-up from our discussion with reappraisal plan, or did we want to table that even to next month's meeting?
I think we gotta table it again. I hate to keep doing that to you. Can we table it for 2 weeks?
I'm okay with it. I didn't know whether or not you had any questions for me or anything. It sounded like potentially you wanted me to follow up in tonight's meeting, but I'm perfectly fine if you want to table it here again.
I'm not ready.
No.
Okay. 2 weeks from now.
Sounds good.
Thank you, Matt.
Hey, thank you. Appreciate it.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next up, Westview Investment Advisors, it should be the next document in your middle file there. It's a communication and standards document.
I don't think I reread this. I read it fast.
This is, okay, so this is from them.
This is what I talked to you. Several weeks ago, about a month ago now,
Okay,
to bring that into compliance or into agreement with this, the state statute that allocates who does what with investments.
So why are the funds coming from this, I mean, the request with the minutes and stuff coming from the town administrator? Why wouldn't they come from you?
Well, because he's your representative on the board, so
Right.
your authority with investments is to decide whether money gets invested or not.
this is what you asked, we did this like a month ago, right?
We did, yes.
Okay,
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
so this is the,
Can I see it?
This is
Yep.
the edited version or new version,
okay, of the decisions that we made.
yes. And
And it's come from Westview, so
it did,
you've worked
but I
with,
worked with them on it,
Westview to create that for us.
I did.
Thank you. Okay,
And it relies on, when it says except for cash management, it relies on our internal procedures with cash management piece,
Mhm.
gotcha.
which we are currently exercising.
Yeah.
With considerable vigor.
Yes.
It's actually close in.
I'm good.
But if you guys are good. Well, we've already made the decisions, so. Just formalizing it.
We just said motion to accept the
Yeah.
Westview Investment Advisors communication and order executive standards for the town of Coventry.
Second,
All in favor?
aye.
I,
Thanks for doing that, Dave.
yeah,
Now we're rolling it.
took a bit.
It was a lot tonight, huh?
All right, next up is the personnel policy revision. We talked about this. There's just one in the middle.
Oh, okay. Do you have those two other pieces?
Yeah, they're in there right
Okay.
behind.
Oh,
the
yep, okay.
Policy, so.
So we had
What was
talked
changed?
about. It was like number 30 something.
I have right here, number 30 overtime.
Okay, so it said or over 8 hours and our guys worked the 10 hours. So I was gonna contact VLCT, but I found the federal and the state. And it says in here over 40 hours in one work week. So we just took off that last little piece that said or over 8 hours a day.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Mhm. So that's updated if,
Was there any other? Is that the only?
that's
update?
the only
I picked
current
the
update.
typo
Okay.
Yeah, and
That you
then,
mentioned in the last one, the 222 there.
yeah, and then before that, he had update the way they added back in the wage
The
scale.
Wage scales, so.
Yeah,
those
we
have
had
been-
more on there, a holiday wage scale.
Good, right up again.
Mhm.
Awesome. Thank you for all that work.
did good,
Thanks.
good.
Yep.
Motion to accept the new personnel policy for the town of Coventry as written.
Second.
All in favor?
I,
I,
I'm gonna sign it. Okay.
Next thing on the pile should be the Hayes Ford invoice.
So the Hayes Ford invoice was the one Nathan called me about, right?
Yep, that's the one you asked me to put on.
And that was over 10,000.
Yeah, the amount.
what is, refresh me after that, it's the F-550.
Yeah, and I have a couple notes from Nathan. It was something that needed to be done and there was only like 2 available parts.
Right.
So,
So it's out of commission right now,
yes, I think
the
so.
truck is broken again.
Mhm.
So he got it up to Hayes and got that as what was necessary, and called me and talked to me about it. I said, well, that's an awful lot of money, so
Mhm.
go ahead and schedule it. Because parts were, I think Ed's right, that there were 2 parts in the country apparently.
Yeah, that's what he found out.
So I said, we'll schedule it, but we're gonna put it in a meeting to make sure that, you know, before the work gets done.
Yeah,
based
10,000
on
ish
this.
is just parts.
Yeah.
Mhm, yeah. Now,
So-
which truck is it? It's the ton truck?
That's the one you see most of the time running around.
Yeah.
It's not quite as old as I thought it was.
21.
It's 21. So. It's out of warranty apparently. Right, Ed, did you have that conversation at all?
I didn't with Nathan.
I
He told
think-
me
I believe
about
it is. I think Nathan's told me it is. I've never,
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, we need the truck,
yeah,
Mhm,
right
for
back
sure.
to the.
Yeah.
You gotta have it. So I think we should approve it, and I don't know when it's getting done, but it's scheduled.
Yep,
It's not on here, it doesn't matter, but I think we should approve that specific amount based on. Our other policy.
I'll let Nathan know that that amount's good. You can go ahead with that amount.
that's what it's gonna be.
Yeah.
Quick question,
Yes.
actually for Ed, there's that recall notice we got, or a Ford recall notice on emissions, diesel emissions. With a VIN attached to it, is that this truck?
I don't know if that's the same truck, cause
Cause that, isn't that diesel emissions?
Yeah.
estimate?
Yeah.
Diesel
I
particulate
can look
filter
at,
assembly.
find out.
Cause that was a notice that they would, Ford would cover certain
Okay.
costs associated with what, you know, if we marry it up and find it's the same thing, that bill may
Okay.
be considerably less.
Yeah, that would be
Yeah, that
great.
was the $7,000 part.
I'll get with Nathan and see if those.
Yeah, it's kind of critical.
Yeah,
The filter itself, is that what it is, the DPF?
Mhm.
Yes. So a DPF assembly with all sensors.
So do we have that tangibly, the recall notice here?
We do.
yep,
Okay, so
We have
I don't think we can afford to miss the boat on it, so let's approve up to
Up to.
the amount and then ask Ed to follow up
sure.
with priority on that, so that
Yep.
we don't miss it.
All right, I make a motion to accept the quote from Hayes Ford to fix the 2021 Ford F-550 Super Duty up to $13,830.12 pending the recall. Question?
I don't know if it's a conversation to have with them, but scrap on that DPF filter, there's quite a lot. You got that truck, probably like $1,200,
So get it back and turn it in?
if you could, yeah.
Okay.
Second,
All in favor?
I,
Aye.
Yes, Chris.
Mr. Chair, so what year is the truck?
2021,
2021, yeah, for 450 or 550?
550.
Is that like a big truck or one of the big plow trucks or?
It's a small plow truck.
I know you have what, one truck on order and one possibly coming in the next couple of years, is that right?
Yeah.
So what is this one of the trucks that's slated to be replaced?
This one's probably got a couple more years in it, I would think. It's not the conversation we've had yet. This one hasn't been, we haven't had a decision yet on when to do this one.
And from what I'm hearing, you don't know if this is part of the Ford recall.
We don't, we're gonna find that out.
What, is it one part, what other part, what is the part or parts?
Rotors. are
Pick 'em
coming.
right
Yeah,
off.
there's rotors, pads, rear grease seals is one section. Lower tie rod end.
So the multiple parts.
Yep.
Well,
There's a
well,
lot.
And then the
There's a
big
lot.
one is the diesel filter assembly.
Do you have an extra?
that's what the
copy?
recall would be on, not the.
What's that?
Not brakes.
Not the brake, the recall would only be on the filter.
Just that, but that's,
Yeah.
I suspect where the money is.
Yeah,
It's a big one.
Is it possible to try to get one off a truck in a junkyard someplace where those parts are fine, but,
no, not that part,
so that's nothing you can get at a salvage yard or,
no.
okay.
If they're in a salvage yard, they're, no.
Their scrap value just because it's full of plat.
Only if it plows your road.
What's that?
Only if it plows your road.
Hey, I'm sorry to ask, but you know. Hey,
Uh,
Yeah.
All right, we're good.
Next one in the middle is the road salt contract and, an update on that. I got it revised for the amount you wanted. And I also spoke to them. One question you guys had was if you know, if you sign a contract for that, you have to take all that. And they said, no, you take whatever, whatever you use in the winter's time. I spoke to the salesman today, so.
So they were looking at trying, they deal with multiple municipalities, right? So they need to know how much they are looking at
Yeah.
ordering,
Yeah, cause it's based on
Give them an
availability
idea.
and you said, they have a lot right now, but
right?
whatever they give you is also based on availability, but if you lock that in, you should be good for the winter, so.
Okay, so we'll just be invoiced for what we use.
Yep. Yeah, you only get charged, you don't have to take it all, just like I
Right,
said, Nathan already found that out and I double checked.
awesome.
And they're looking for 450 ton.
Yeah.
Good. Good.
I think everything, thank you, everybody did good on that, because we were all a little bit. Wondering, and that's an important thing, we ran out last year, so we won't do it now.
Mhm. I make a motion to approve the Cargill quote for road salt for 450 ton at $107.75 per ton.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Are you signing or Ed signing?
I didn't hear the name of the company,
Cargill,
CAI,
GILL.
that's what I thought.
We'll let you,
I'll sign that, yep. Yeah, as soon as, that was another thing you reminded me, as soon as I get this back, then you're good to go.
Yep. Thank you.
Sure. All right, next up is town garage fuel tank information. I got a few notes here for you. I was hoping to get back a quote from Fred's, but they haven't sent it to me yet, but just a little bit of info, if you're looking to get one of those, there's different. I think Dan Rondo mentioned this, when we were talking about before, different codes and regulations. It has to be 20 feet away from the building. And they would like a concrete pad, but if you have a good solid gravel pad where it's not gonna move, then they're happy with that. And they'll give you like a good price based on that you already get diesel fuel from them, but they want, if they're gonna put that work in and put a tank in for you, they want you to buy from them.
So they own the tank.
Yes, they own the tank
Right.
and they set it up. There's also different regulations. He went over a couple things with me about how you wire it in and everything. That's important. But he's gonna get back a quote, give me, price per gallon, and he based it on like 300 gallons that you would use. So I can get with Nathan and see if that, if that's an accurate amount or whatever. That's just was what he based it on to begin with.
So we're talking about unleaded.
Yep.
There's no minimal usage, no minimal gallons per
No.
week you had to use.
And when I said 300 gallons, that's the tank size, you can go bigger if you want.
And what were you talking about? Because the garage, the conversation at the last meeting
There's
was
a
like,
hazardous location barrier around the dispensing pump, which is 20 feet. And any wiring in that location has to be explosion proof wiring, so it would be rigid conduit with proper seals and. It's not cheap to install, but I would guess if you're gonna put it 20 feet away from a building and the power is at the building. $2,000 to $3,000 to put the electrical to it.
Cause the other thing too was about the, if it was an emergency shelter, so it's still just that 20 feet.
It'd be, yeah, there's a 20 feet boundary, something
Yeah.
like boundary.
This might be what you were talking about, Dan, but he mentioned explosion proof wiring unless you have like a 12-volt pump with conduit. Is that what you were talking about?
Right.
So that option's cheaper, right? If you
The 12-volt pump
yeah, if you
would
run
be-
conduit.
Yeah, I don't know much about that, cause I don't deal with that stuff, but, yeah, and then 12-volt would put you under the threshold of voltage, so. It could be wired. I guess you could probably wire it in a cheaper method. I'd have to look into that one.
Okay. Those are just the two things he talked about, said,
Wonder how much gas they are gonna use.
yeah, that's why we based it on the 300 gallon, because it's basically for the ton truck and then the mower in the summer, right?
The pickup truck, not the
Yeah.
ton truck, right?
Yeah, that's right.
I just,
So,
we have a,
so how did we get here? We're talking about this because we used to have an account here,
And
yeah,
then
Royers.
we got to talking about the credit cards.
and then Royers stopped. The
Yeah, the
account.
new owners.
So we no longer have that, and then we're talking about the credit cards, but we have an account at
Jimmy Quicks.
Jimmy Quick, which is half a mile outside of town. We have one truck only,
yeah,
one vehicle only, but cans. You guys, where are you guys fueling up with the cemetery?
Cemetery?
Yeah,
Good question. I don't know.
I think he goes up to Reuters and submits an invoice typically. Cause he wants the. Non-ethanol premium.
but are they doing an invoice up there?
He must
No,
pay,
There,
He
that's,
must pay for it. I have to go look and see.
oh, okay,
he must pay for it and get reimbursed.
It's not huge money, so,
right,
I can look.
um,
I guess the issue was the start, that you wanted to look into it was, they take the mower right up there to get their gas and they were borrowing the card. But that doesn't work under the policy, so it all started with the credit cards.
cause they were driving the mower up there.
Yeah,
What's wrong with having a few gas cans in a. Well, giving a container at the truck. You know, a non. Flame-proof container and having a few gas cans in there that are always full.
Right,
you still,
And then you go up there and you fill the truck up, and you fill the gas cans at the same time.
but it becomes a credit card issue
no.
Not if
You
they
gotta
fill
count
them
there.
up at
Just charge it,
when you went to
Jimmy Quick.
Jimmy Quick.
yeah, either one of them.
And then if they're working way over by like Audio Carve up Reed Road or Petite Road and they need fuel in the pickup truck or something, whatever they're doing, it's going to Jimmy Quick's versus a credit card at whichever other gas station. Which I don't know how often that happens. Fill up the truck while you're there, when you go to pick and shovel.
How much gas do you really need besides the pickup truck?
Well, that's what I was just asking, because we only have the one
Right.
vehicle.
I think
So
Nate had mentioned that
It's the
about,
pickup truck, lawnmower, and
that's all he mentioned to me.
weed whacker.
Yeah,
If,
You're gonna mix that anyway. That's the
Yeah.
gas can regardless.
Nathan
So do
mentioned
they-
the
do they-
cans, but,
with Fred's, they don't, do they charge for the tank?
just, you
Just-
have to pay for the wiring part that Dan's talking about.
So-
But the sending it in the tank, it's their tank, they don't charge you, but you're charged for the gas.
Yeah. So how much easier would it be if we put a crank on it? You're just filling cans most of the time?
You could crank it or look into the 12-volt option. I don't know much about that, if that's. You have a battery sitting out there that you hook it to, or that seems kinda. Oh. I don't know much of the 12-volt.
we used to use a hand crank.
I have a crank in it, I mean, it's,
Just a,
Yeah, and
for one
that's.
truck and a can.
yeah,
It's still a hazardous location, you still have a
Right.
20-foot boundary, but you don't have the special wire.
Right. Well, Ed. Can you ask that?
Sure.
See what the optionality is for a hand, well, get both. Talk to them about both 12 volt and the hand crank, but I'm with Dan, I think.
Just filling cans most of the time, and it is handy to have the gas close.
Right, and you will get a better deal on the gas.
Yeah,
I guess some of the issue why they were driving up there is because he said the tank's a lot bigger and more than people realize. So it takes quite a few cans to fill it. That's what Nathan mentioned.
So, yeah, call them back to Brad's and find out about the hand. I mean, and then we can, next meeting, we can make a decision.
Go from there.
Thanks, Dan, for that information.
yep.
Thank you, Dan.
And did I hear you say you want,
Oh.
Fred, never mind,
Yeah, go ahead.
that Fred would like the town to buy the fuel from them, they put the tank in.
Yeah, so what those suppliers do, Chris, is they have those skid tanks or those tanks for customers that are gonna buy the fuel from them.
Right.
And so they supply the tank.
And the tank is on the ground?
No.
Oh, okay.
Well, it's above ground, so they can just come take it if we don't pay the bill.
Or if for some reason either one wants to break ties,
Right.
they just,
They own the tank.
they come and get the tank, they don't have to get a backhoe and dig into the ground.
Nope. All right.
All right, next up, disposal capacity meeting, and you have the host community agreement there. I've sent you some different emails about this person wanting someone from town of Coventry to attend the meeting. I also printed out, I think in each packet, an email of the latest one.
Well, which one of you two would like to go with that?
I already have something going on that night. I have another meeting.
Yeah, whatever.
To be clear on that, they're looking for someone to come make a presentation
Yeah,
This week, Wednesday night.
and
One of those email, yeah, I read that the same way you did.
That's what
Dave.
I was-
And then I saw another email that said it wasn't necessarily. Or, right, Ed?
well,
Right, yeah.
Or need to be a presentation, but they were asking for a representative of the town to just at least attend. Is what I saw
Yes,
the
yeah.
last email with that.
But if you look at that.
We
latest
haven't been
email-
replying.
they face the grilling of other attendees.
Yeah.
If you look at the latest email.
So it's not just gonna be,
I don't know if it says presentation or not. but
Coventry's experience being a host town.
mhm.
And this is Wednesday
5:30 in Montpelier.
at 5:30. So you wanted to do that, Dave?
Oh, no, I attended the first one virtually,
Oh, you did?
yeah, and most people do.
How long ago was that?
Oh, gosh, a couple months. And then they had another one last month. I didn't go to, but I watched the replay,
Okay,
played out kind of the same. They're just, it's not even kind of the higher level A&R, it's kind of mid-level A&R folks who are just holding some sort of public hearing on future of landfill kind of stuff, future of solid waste disposal in Vermont. Heavily attended by folks that are opposed to such things, and most of the presenters thus far have been from out of state, which is useful in terms of what they present. Casella did a very brief presentation in the very first meeting about remaining capacity at this landfill. No surprises, it was what they've been telling us.
Where did you find the links for these? On the A&R website or
Oh, no, they sent it in the email.
it isn't? Okay.
I'm sure it's on their website.
Mhm.
If you read that email too, there is a request that if you can't show up for that document, I think was the other comment in there.
I'm hard pressed to think of goodness that comes out of the town at this meeting. I can think of a lot of badness, but
Daisy's a big word.
that's just, you know, just my way of thinking about it. Not sure why we would go say anything. It's only my opinion. I may be missing something. You know, my interest in it was pretty financial. How much capacity remains? How many years do they think they're gonna get out of it? What might there be in new disposal technologies that might impact the town? Our cash flow, 'cause most of our cash flow comes out of that one.
Can we send Ed? Just kidding.
People don't actually go in person. I mean, you attend in person. Even the presenters, for most part, they're virtual.
Oh,
They're not there. So we don't have to drive them all.
How many people are physically there?
I could say probably 10 or 15 in the room of unidentified people.
everyone from Casella is just not there?
I did not see them as physically attending the first meeting.
Hmm.
Doesn't mean they weren't. I don't know that they're. Well, it's not really easy to tell who's
Yeah.
in attendance. Physically or remote.
And Ed can say, I'm new. I'd have to find that answer for you.
So they requested this host community agreement, which we're gonna give them at the
Mhm.
public.
Yep.
Um. Well. I know they've been after us for a while. The back and forth that you've been watching, Dave, or that you saw on that was, what's the overall vibration in the room? Is it environmentally? Is it environmental stuff? Is it?
The presenters that they invite from solid waste disposal organizations or industries, yeah. Well, there's some environmental focus, but that's mostly how we do it,
Right.
what we do.
Yeah.
But then there's the environmentally focused groups like Dump. Dump usually has 2 or 3 people there to make. And they talk about what they talk about.
Yeah.
They have definitely sharpened their methods and approach over the years.
Yeah.
And they're professional, and it's not it hasn't been an arena of conflict, but
Is the state, is your instinct, it's my instinct that the state understands they're 20 years out.
that's correct.
And they're trying to,
That was definitely Casella's message. Get 20. And they're exploring options.
Right.
But
Yeah.
realistically, it's getting real close.
it is. Okay, well, man, too.
Second, no, just kidding.
I don't have a computer, so
I think probably at this point, we probably should do it. And make sure that we're not missing something. You know, we are the host community in the state. Like it or lump it. And these requests aren't gonna stop, I don't think, and I don't think they should, right? State's got a lot of work ahead of them. I think we should probably be as good a partners as we can, but probably carefully. So I'll do it, you guys want. Carefully, my truck doesn't look down.
Virtual.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So you want me to send that document?
Thanks,
over
Scott.
there?
Well,
Mm,
so with you going or
Why not?
in case no college representative wishes.
Oh, if you're going, yeah.
Right. No.
Have it handy then.
Yeah. Just have it in my hand.
Mhm.
so will you be talking, giving Coventry's experience? Is that,
Well, who knows what somebody might ask, but I'll just say things that are, I know to be true. Which is, we have had good experiences with Casellas, has treated us very, very well. We have perks, those that live here in town. We're going to be, we are now, and we are going to be living financially very satisfied. We haven't experienced any major environmental issues. I mean, those are all just the truths of it all. I understand the other parts, which is, it shouldn't all be located in one spot. That's not our decision, right? That's the state. We've all in this room inherited this. It's not us that created it. And so we are bound by agreements too. And I think I would always raise my hand for more diversity, right? More places to look at disposal so that it's not all coming to one spot. I don't think anybody in the world wouldn't think that's a good idea. But it still hasn't happened. David's right. I think they're probably really starting to maybe get a little heat under their collar, thinking about 20 years comes quick. There's no other site that I'm aware of. Are you there?
Well, this says
Around the
Morton.
state that's,
This says
We're
more.
not working on licensing anyway.
I believe there's places that are permanent, but they're not looking at putting them there.
what's that?
I believe there's places that are permanent to accept waste in the state. But they're not being used in the likeliness of that happening in the state. Pretty slim.
Right. Yeah, right. There's no point.
There's zero plan, correct?
all right, no, I just was. We all have opinions on it. I didn't want one of our opinions representing the town. That's all facts, but just,
Yeah, I think when you do something like that, it's not a personal opinion, it's what's the town experienced.
Yeah.
Or not experienced.
They're involved in the community too. I mean, I don't know, they're part of Coventry Fall Festival, and I don't know if they put some money into the sign and.
They do
They-
they do our, what's it called? Every town's responsible to do, but they
Solid
do
waste management plan.
the solid waste management plan, thank you, Dave, they do ours for us.
And the hazardous waste.
yeah,
Collections,
Those are two big. Thank yous.
Mhm.
yeah, really,
From ourselves.
yeah.
thanks, Scott.
Thank you.
What is the meeting?
When is it?
Yeah.
Next month sometime, Chris.
Wednesday,
Wednesday,
Wednesday.
this Wednesday,
this week,
2
22nd.
days from now.
Oh. It's virtual?
Yeah.
Who's further on A&R?
Yes.
Yeah.
You want me to get back to him for you or anything in an email or? That helps.
No, there's a phone number there.
Okay.
I'll call it in the morning.
All right, under other business, so, I spoke to a couple of you about this, but I've been working with, Rearc, the company that's taken down one of the buyouts there, 983 River Road. And, talking to the assistant project manager, he just wanted to inform us that once the town owns those properties, you're allowed to go in and take out, you know, like if a stove or something like that could benefit the town. The town owns it, so you're allowed to go in and take out what you want. So, he actually gave me a couple other notes today, anything that's left behind that the previous owner didn't want, once the town takes ownership of the property, that includes discarded items. So he just gave me an example, somebody left a whole car lift one time and the town went and got it for the garage, so. And it's up to you who you let on the property, but for liability purposes, he said it should be someone from the town. You know, for insurance and liability purposes. And the second part of that, he was asking for the person that tested the asbestos there. They were interested in buying the counters, so that was the second part of that. From the town, I don't know how that works, but
So, I forgot my task. The other day, which was, when I first heard of that, Ed and I talked about it real quickly, and I said, well, let's maybe ask Jim.
Yeah.
Campbell, just to go over and look at it. And. I mean, I can't really think of a better
No, he's perfect.
person to like. Take a quick look and see what's there for us or not there for us, or for people in need, or. I know he does a lot of things, so I don't know.
Yep.
It's open.
I went
Yeah.
in
You did?
after he talked about it.
Okay,
Yeah, the countertops look good, whoever, but I don't know that we can sell. I had pulled up the agreement today and then I never read it from when the papers were signed in July or August. And then there's a dishwasher, whether it works, and there's a stove, whether it works. There's nice light fixtures. But when are they demolishing it?
the plan is the middle of November. And they give you a 10-day notice, so.
there was nothing crazy like a car
No.
lift or anything like,
No.
that was.
The building in the back is kind of nice though. Almost looks like a.
Carport thing.
No, there's the garage and then behind that, it almost looked like it had animals in it at one time. Good luck moving it.
So. Jim,
Yeah.
Mhm,
have him put his eyes on it
mhm.
and see if he comes up with any ideas for us.
Yep.
Otherwise,
I mean, the few appliances could be stored in this garage over here, and if anybody needs them.
Maybe I can touch base with you, Carrie, about looking at the document about in terms of selling, you know.
Yeah, it's recorded here, so Deb has it too, but she won't be back till Thursday. I'll resend it to you. I'll forward it to you.
and that's like connected to the group, to the,
FEMA.
oh. Okay. All right, I just figure that out, and I'll give Jim a call and see if he do that for us. I'm sure he will.
All right.
I
It's
had,
all cleaned out. Is there everything going in there mostly?
Mostly, yeah.
I had some other business. I talked to the town attorney about the Hancock Hill. He had just gotten word back from the other attorney.
Yeah.
Thought he'd have something to us last week, Thursday or Friday. I haven't seen anything else. Ed, you've seen anything? So I'm thinking it'll be soon.
So there is communication that's happened,
Yep.
so they're working and
I would expect to see something this week.
thank you. You're
Nice.
hard on those guys. And is it, who did you talk to?
Brian,
Brian himself? Okay, good. Thank you.
good.
All right. Approval of minutes, October 6, 2025.
It looks good, I think.
Ed, you're doing an excellent job on
Mhm,
these.
yeah.
Thank you.
Good.
Very good. Very good.
Mhm.
Motion to accept the minutes for the Town of Coventry Select Board meetings, Monday, October 6th, 2025 is written.
Second.
All in favor?
I,
Aye. Should we just mention too, the ice storm? That's when?
Tomorrow,
Tomorrow night,
That's-
6 p.m.
6 p.m.
That's tomorrow night here, 6 p.m.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, just so everybody's
Sure.
hearing it again.
And it's no.
Or,
I thought you were raising your hand.
me too.
not discussion.
Question
There's
in there.
The top, and there's a note, David, who's still here, he can explain it better than me, but. If you need it.
Yeah, you know, if you want to fund any of that paving bill from the reserve. The roads infrastructure fund, the balance, I think, 79K.
Yep. 79,201.
Take any amount up to the total that's in there to help pay for this 411,000. Or not. It's up to you, but I didn't know before we,
411.
411, I don't know if it was changed, but 411,000. This year, part of this year's payment.
Oh, this is
411,000.
our final bill.
I don't know about that. This.
Should be.
That's really hard to read.
What's your
111.
recommendation? You wanna liquidate?
I would, yeah. Use the restricted fund first.
Yeah.
Take the rest out of the highway fund.
I would think they would.
One of those all the credit cards.
So, what do you guys think about that?
Sounds fine.
Kind of goes in line with what we talked about with Melanie, right?
Mhm.
Yep.
So the balance of the road and infrastructure fund is $79,201.21, so we may as well use it.
Mhm.
Be done with it. And then, David, right out of general.
Highway fund.
Yeah.
With all that entails.
Yeah.
That's gonna be motion. Because
Yes.
it's coming out of that restricted fund.
All right.
That-
Are we
that-
doing, are we zero balancing it?
Yeah.
Make a motion to pay for the paving out of what's left in the roads and infrastructure fund and then the balance out of the highway fund.
I think you should probably say.
$79,201.21 out of the roads and infrastructure fund. And if you want the grand total, I can't read that.
Yeah, that doesn't matter.
Second.
All in favor?
I,
Thanks, David.
We know
Okay, so
when-
Carrie,
Keep that.
do we know when we bought a tablet and what it was?
He would.
No.
You don't know either?
Me, I do.
That's
That's
for
good.
Nathan, for the road crew, for like, I think he was like tracking like samples and stuff, and then he downloads them into there, or something I think with Matt when I first started, so.
Okay, cool. Okay, that answers that question.
Another tablet.
what does he do with it again?
I don't remember exactly, it's something to do with like information he collects out on the road, samples or whatever, and then.
Oh,
Downloads whatever.
This is for the state.
Yeah,
But have, with an old Wi-Fi connected or does it have a cellular chip?
I'm not sure about him.
We'll find out when we get the bills.
Have him come in and see Dave with us sometime.
Okay,
But if it's only Wi-Fi. Easy, but.
Yeah,
may
I
not
think
be-
it's,
May not be all that useful.
It was, it's not a very expensive
I do think it's a
tablet.
thing that he's doing for they're all having.
I think it's a couple of different ones, isn't it? Because of the Deb being away and stuff
Yeah.
that you might have pre-approved.
Those ones right there are all brand new invoices.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Wow, that's pretty
He's
thick.
watching us.
then there wasn't anything unusual.
No, I mean, you had a few in there from the Bart branch and from, the, town garage building. for some
Right.
of the engineering, but those are just some of the beginning costs.
Improved.
But everything else was normal.
Thank you, Deb.
Motion to accept the warrants as written.
Second,
All in favor?
right.
I,
Right.
motion to adjourn.
Second, I was waiting for that.
You too. All in
Was
favor?
delayed.
Aye. Usually as soon as he gets out of that chair.
Good night.
Good night.
Hi, Deb.
Thanks, Deb.